Yes, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's get it done. Let's talk about the Leafs one more time here on the YouTube channel because, hey, we can't really avoid these topics anymore, can we? And talk about a few other players on this team that we haven't really discussed all too much about in the previous few days. Now, just for full disclosure, this is not the quote-unquote blow it up video. That is a topic that other YouTubers have explored, and I personally am also thinking of exploring it too sometime in the near future. But this video is not really about the Leafs blowing it up. Instead, it's more about the smaller guys on the team. Smaller in terms of value and, let's face it, cap space. Because we've already spoken about Mitch Marner and potential moves if it's time to move him, and we all saw a very big, diverse discussion in the comments underneath that video. And we also talked about Frederik Andersen, whether or not Nick Kypreos' claim of a potential Andersen for Murray one-for-one trade between Pittsburgh and Toronto was all that interesting and all that proper, I guess. But in this video, we're bringing up Elliotte Friedman's 31 Thoughts, his most recent publication of the article, to go over a few other players on the Leafs that haven't had their share of the spotlight just yet. So, the beginning of Elliotte Friedman's most recent 31 Thoughts article, which was published on August 11th, which was earlier last week, goes over the big four: Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares. It then goes over a whole bunch of other players like Kasperi Kapanen. It goes over Andreas Johnsson. It goes over Alex Kerfoot. It then goes over Frederik Andersen as well, and a whole bunch of different hypothetical questions as to what the Leafs could entertain. But if we go over into the actual 31 Thoughts portion of the article, let's scroll not that far down over to thought number 5. This is what Elliotte Friedman writes: looking at those Toronto wingers, I wondered if Edmonton is a fit. Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid need help. The Leafs and the Oilers have been close on some things before. Connor Brown, before he went to Ottawa, was almost an Edmonton Oiler. Matt Benning and Juhar Khaira, although that one fell apart when the forward got hurt. But Oilers GM Ken Holland is determined to avoid previous mistakes and not give up on young players too soon. So I'm not sure if it works. I do think it's unlikely Edmonton qualifies Andreas Athanasiou because the tighter cap and his arbitration possibilities make it difficult. So there you have it. Friedman says, in his opinion, it is more unlikely than likely, but it's still a thought to consider. So let's go over this idea over here. Let's talk about Kapanen. Let's talk about Andreas Johnsson. Let's talk about Kerfoot. Okay, maybe not Kerfoot because he's not really a winger. I mean, he can play wing, but he's mostly a center. And the Oilers don't really need any more centers now, don't they? And a potential Oilers trade. So pretty much we're only focusing on Kapanen and Andreas Johnsson here. It's a similar kind of vibe as our Johnsson and Kapanen Detroit video earlier in the year, but instead of Detroit Motor Town, it is Edmonton Oil Town. What can we talk about when it comes to the Oilers and these two players? Well, in my opinion, if you want to take a look at a potential Oilers move that would involve Kapanen and or Johnsson, to me, if I'm Ken Holland, I'm looking at Kapanen first. We know that the Oilers want to try things out with the speed of Connor McDavid. That's the entire reason they acquired Andreas Athanasiou at the trade deadline. Now, you can say what you want about whether or not Athanasiou is going to come back because, hey, RFA situation, flat cap, limited salary cap space, whatever. But you know who else is a pretty fast, speedy winger who could potentially thrive alongside of a Connor McDavid because he may be one of the only players in the league who could keep up to some capacity? It's Kasperi Kapanen. As a consistent 30 to 40 point producing winger on the Toronto Maple Leafs, a guy who spent most of his time towards the end of the season with Clifford and Spezza and Kerfoot and Engvall, and yeah, he didn't really spend all too much time with Tavares and Marner and Matthews like he did last year, but there still is a lot to be valued when it comes to Kasperi Kapanen and his game. A player like this, if you play him alongside a Connor McDavid, does have the potential to thrive just based off of the speed alone. We know that Kasperi Kapanen is a capable NHL forward who can pot some goals, who can pot some assists. But play him with the best player in the world, and all of a sudden, hey, that seems like a recipe for success. Now, I get that it didn't really work out that way with Andreas Athanasiou. If you take a look at his run in Edmonton, 2 points in 9 games played in the regular season, 4 games played in the playoffs, and 0 points. Obviously, there's a lot to be improved there on the speed plus speed equals goal kind of front. But is there a reason to not take a chance? That's what they did with Athanasiou, but at the end of the day, we don't even know if he's going to come back. At the end of the day, that's 15 games worth of experience with this quote-unquote experiment you had where you tried to add speed to Connor McDavid's line. Kasperi Kapanen could do just that, which is why, to me, there is somewhat of a sense of value in bringing up his name with an Oilers trade. The same can be said to some capacity to Andreas Janssen's case. Now, not on the same side of it being speed plus speed, but the fact is the Oilers could use some help up front. People talk about how their D-core has been improving. It's Ethan Bear, it's Darnell Nurse, it's these guys actually doing better and playing better. But for some reason, it's the Oilers offense that kinda struggled up against the Chicago Blackhawks in the play-in series. Not Connor McDavid and Draisaitl, those guys were pretty good. But everybody else around them, man. Take a look at this. This is the goal chart of the playoffs for the Oilers. Connor McDavid led the team with 5. Not a surprise. Leon Draisaitl had 3, so that's 3 goals in 4 games, not bad. Nugent Hopkins had 2, Neal had 2, Chiasson had 1, Ennis had 1, and Archibald had 1. And that's it! That is it! There were no more goal-producing players on the Edmonton Oilers. And you could say, oh, it's a small sample size, man. 4 games? Are you kidding me? 4 games? But these 4 games decided their series. These 4 games decided the entire fate of the Oilers going into the future of this playoffs. And they did not show up the rest of the Oilers' offense core. McDavid and Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, these guys need help. Where's Kailer Yamamoto when you need him? Where's Andreas Athanasiou when you need him? Where's Zach Kassian when you need him? What about Riley Sheahan? These guys can't get it done getting 0 goals, and Chiasson, Ennis, Archibald getting 1 goal apiece. Okay, fine. Give them a little bit of a pass. But there's a reason people are talking about the Oilers not anymore as a team that needs defense, but as a team that could use some offensive support. And the bottom line is, hey, Andreas Janssen, he's a guy that can help you do that. You could debate as to whether or not he's better than guys like Josh Archibald and Alex Chiasson in that department, but I'd argue he is. So, what you're doing with the Edmonton Oilers is thinking about acquiring a small extra contract. And I say small because $3.4 million for Andreas Janssen and $3.2 million for Kasperi Kapanen, it's not that big compared to other players in the Leafs, but at the same time I do understand that a flat cap does change up the entire dynamic of how this team can go forward. Plus, the fact that the Oilers have a projected $10 million in cap space for next season, there certainly is a lot of room for debate as to what should go on. Riley Sheahan, his contract is ending. Ennis is up. So is Patrick Russell, not to mention Andreas Athanasiou, who is also going to be up as well. But then you got other guys like Mike Green, Matthew Benning, and Ethan Bear that you're also going to have to negotiate with as well. So there is a little bit of uncertainty with the cap perspective taken into account, but to me, just talking about the idea of Kapanen and or Andreas Janssen to the Oilers, it makes sense. Like, there really is nothing within me that says, nah, it wouldn't really be a good use of the Oilers' time to try something like this. To me, it's something that you try. And if you're Toronto asking for a return, what do you need the most? You need a little bit more balance with your team. Less skill, more determination, more grit, more actual ability to win puck battles and shove your way to the front of the net. I'm not going to say that the Oilers have exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs could need, but to me, if you want to make a trade work, there are options to do that. Either trade for a second or multiple prospects, use those to flip themselves into another good forward for your squad, or try to go after what Edmonton has themselves as well. I'm no expert on Edmonton forwards, but Juhar Khaira, Alex Chason, Zach Cassian, Riley Sheahan, these are all some pretty big guys. And they could potentially help you out win those board battles a little bit more or drive to the front of the net. Who knows? I'm not saying that that by any means is fair, just throwing out the idea. So talk to me in the comments below what you think about this idea. Kapanen, Andreas Janssen, and Edmonton, what do you think about this idea? I hope you enjoyed this video. 99, and bye.